What happens when you take the engine out of a Pontiac Solstice or a Saturn Sky, then you put it inside a freaking Chevy Cobalt and turbo it? You get one of the most underrated and forgotten about cars of the last decade. Ladies and gentlemen, this is before you buy a Chevy Cobalt SS. Now, I'm still in disbelief at just how hard this car is slept on. Hopefully things will change after this video. But first, let's start with the basics. There was 3 different versions of the Cobalt SS made available. There was a naturally aspirated 2.4 liter 4-cylinder. Then in the year 2005, there was the early forced induction version, which featured a 2.0 liter Eaton Supercharged 4-cylinder that made 205 horsepower. Now, those versions of the Cobalt SS are going for around $3,000, but if you could hold out for a little bit longer, just a few more night shifts or just a few more rounds with that GILF, save yourself $2,000 more and get yourself a 2008 to 2010 Cobalt SS. So what's so special about the 2008 and above model, you might be asking yourself? Well, you see, Chevy's contract with Eaton expired, so they were forced to find a different method of introducing forced induction into their cars. This gave birth to the turbocharged 2.0 liter 4-cylinder Cobalt SS. At the time, keyword here, at the time, this was the fastest front-wheel drive car being produced. The newly turbocharged 4-cylinder now made 260 horsepower and 260 foot-pounds of torque. And it was all mated to a 5-speed manual. And this little unassuming Chevy had a 0 to 60 time of 5.5 seconds and a quarter mile of just 13.9 seconds. Dude, even by today's standards, that's as fast as a 5.7 liter Hemi-powered Dodge Charger RT. But oh, it gets better. Chevy actually had the balls. They had the nerve of taking this protractor on wheels to the frickin' Nürburgring. It completed a lap of 22.9 seconds, which at the time made it the fastest time of any front-wheel drive car ever. It boggles my mind as to why we don't see more of these cars out there on the road today. Now, the Cobalt SS came either as a coupe or a 4-door sedan, the 4-door sedans being a little bit more rare, so pretty much there was a Cobalt SS to fit anybody's needs. The insane part is that some minor bolt-ons can take these cars to the 300 horsepower range for less than $1,000. Now, as far as problems go, it's actually hilarious because all major complaints about these cars seem to be coming from crappy mid-2000s GM interiors. From paint fade to faulty sunroofs and squeaks and rattles coming from the interior, besides the front rotors that have a tendency to warp, and also some timing chain issues and 5th gear popping. For the most part, the engines on these cars are as bulletproof as they come, which is one of the reasons you shouldn't be deterred from buying one of these with over 150,000 miles. They've been known to go well into and past the 200,000 mile mark easily. And as of the making of this video, the most shocking part about these cars is the prices. Expect to pay anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000 for a good condition, low mile turbocharged SS, but if a little high mileage doesn't bother you, the average prices on these cars are under $5,000. Comparing that to Miatas, which have had prices skyrocket, or Nissan 240SXs, or SN95 Mustangs, hell, even Honda Civic SIs, the Cobalt SS, which is faster than every single one of those cars I just listed, by the way, is an absolute steal at $3,500. Don't believe me? Here's a Cobalt SS beating a neon SRT4. Oh, okay, not good enough for you? Well, how about this Cobalt SS beating a 9th gen Honda Civic Si? Ah, okay, I see. Still not enough for you, huh? Okay, fine. Here's a Cobalt SS keeping up with a Camaro SS. Okay, that's a 2.0 4-banger keeping up with a 6.2 liter LS3. Now, if going fast in a straight line isn't for you, not to worry. That's because the Cobalt SS came with larger anti-roll bars, larger and higher performance brakes, stiffer springs and struts, and had about a 1/4 inch high drop as well. And to top it all off, it also came with a limited slip differential. But it gets better, because if you can afford it, the later models came with stiffer springs, dampers, and suspension bushings. They also had Brembo brakes, larger anti-roll bars, and quicker steering as well. Remember, this is the same car that held the record in 2008 for the fastest front-wheel drive production car at the Nürburgring, ranking amongst Porsches, Mercedes, and BMWs. And yet, you barely see any of these on the road today. Hell, go to any car shows on any given day and you'll see the rarest of Skylines and Lambos and Ferraris, and yet chances are you'll likely never run into a Cobalt SS. Easily one of the most dependable, performing, and handling coupes you can buy for under $5,000. And just like other cars of its days, like the Pontiac GTO, people look past all of that because it was quote-unquote ugly. Well, maybe those people that hated on this car so much just got tired of constantly seeing their taillights all the time. 2008 Chevy Cobalt SS Turbo. The only car faster than a Mustang, Miata, Civic, and SRT4 that nobody bats an eye at. SMH. What happens when you take the engine out of a Pontiac Solstice? But first, let's start with the basics. But first, let's start with the basics. There came with stiffer springs, dampers and suspension bushings. Dampers and suspension bushings also with They also had Brembo brakes, larger anti-roll bars, and a quicker steering as well. Alright, remember, this is the what the fuck? With a time of 8.22, ranking amongst Porsches, Mercedes, and BMWs. Maybe those people that hated on this car so much just got tired of constantly seeing their rear fucking Cuban. Just got tired of constantly seeing their taillights all the time.